Welcome everybody to my podcast, Big Little Small Talk. I'm Megan O'Hara-Sullivan and I love to talk, but I also love to listen. If you're new here, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome listeners to Big Little Small Talk. You're with me, Megan O'Hara-Sullivan, and we're breaking new ground today on Big Little Small Talk because we've never had a couple before. We've had groups of people, but I've got a couple here who are Adam and Susy Wenitong, and they run a program in Toowoomba called Adapt Mentorship, and it's doing really some incredible work here in Toowoomba, but we're going to talk about that later on. Welcome, Adam and Susy.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, now you are experienced podcasters yourself with Adapt. You do a lot of podcasting, and we were just talking about it before we started the interview. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about that in a minute, but where I want to start is at the beginning, of course. Adam, you are a Torres Strait Islander.
No. So that's an interesting way to start because I come from North Queensland. I'm Aboriginal and South Sea Islander. But the more south you come, people assume I'm Torres Strait Islander. I lived up in Cairns. I lived in the Torres Strait for a long time. I did a lot of cultural stuff up in the Torres Strait. So because there is not many Torres Strait Islanders to represent down here, if the opportunity comes up, I love to represent and just show the community that there are two cultures in this country. So yeah, but that was my answer to one of the questions you were about to
Well, listeners, I don't give them the questions in advance. That's a myth. So tell me about your parents. Like, how did they, as South Sea Islanders, come to Cairns?
So mum and dad, mum's Aboriginal South Sea Island and dad's Aboriginal. They met in Mount Isa. Dad was in the mines and mum was working as an air hostess for Qantas back in the 70s, late 60s, which was, I couldn't believe it, but yeah, she was. And and so... But mum comes from Mackay, from Dumbleton, which was a Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander and Chinese mission. So she grew up in Dumbleton, and my earliest memories were being at Dumbleton. So we had a lot big South Sea Islander, Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander and Chinese population down there. So, we are the products of that reservation time, I suppose. So it was on a weir, on a river, and back in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, it was never dammed, so there was a lot of flooding. So a lot of people did lose their lives back in the 50s and 60s. But yeah, so mum and dad were originally from around Mackay Gladstone, went to Cairns for high school and then came down here for university. So
okay. Your mother being an air hostess, she was an Aboriginal woman.
Yes.
How rare would that have been?
That's what I mean, yeah. And I've seen photos and yeah, it was just inspiring, I suppose. And I think that's where I get my drive and I had good parents and they were really proactive in our lives and taught us self-determination and how to drive forward. So
I don't want to labour this point too much, but I just think, as an Aboriginal woman...
Yeah, definitely.
So what era are we talking, the 70s?
I'm talking the late 60s, early 70s, yeah.
Right. And does she talk about her experience of how she was able to do that and how the barriers that she faced?
Yeah, and it was interesting because it was actually an Aboriginal program through Qantas back in the 60s. Yeah, because we've had this conversation. Yeah, and she applied for it when she was in Mackay and she ended up, Mount Isa and just flying around. And she did it for 2 years until she met Dad. And then my older sister came, so she had to retire from that. So.
And Adam, did you say that you then went as a family and lived on the mission? Have I got that right?
Well, mum and my grandparents lived at Dumbleton. And so that was the family base. I think there was 9 kids and a big community down there. So my earliest memories was, when Dad worked in the mines or worked on the railway, we would always be at Dumbleton as a kid, and I'm talking 3 or 4 years of age. So and that was a community, but it was also a reservation, but it lost that classing, I think, in the mid-70s. But a lot of the families still lived there to the early 80s, until we all moved back into town, I suppose. But we go out there regularly, because there's grave sites and stuff, and you see all the red slabs along the riverbank, where all the families, and we can name every family,
What does that mean, the red slabs? What does that mean?
Well, that's where the houses were.
Right.
Yeah, so they've knocked them all down. And I remember we had it was beautiful because we had this house up on the hill, and my earliest memory is a 30-metre staircase down to the riverbank, and I suppose my earliest memory is my grandfather teaching me how to swim by throwing me in the river, and me coming up and seeing my mother crying on the riverbank and him going, "Swim to the bank, boy." So, but Dumbleton is I think for Mackay people, it's a sorry place. There's a lot of bad memories there. You don't go there at night. And yeah, so no, interesting question.
And what about the South Sea Islander? How far back is that?
So Granddad's father or mother was South Sea Islander, so he was born in 1930, and so he was second generation. So they came as Kanakas, as slaves, maybe 2 generations before. The thing, my granddad had an office underneath the house, and he had the big shackles with the big pins in them, and he said, that's from our people, that's from my grandfather, that's from my father's age. So on both sides, we had the South Sea, the blackbirding, and then we had the Aboriginal stuff as well with the stolen generation, and a lot of our family is affected by that up north. But yeah, look, it's and the older you get, the more you reflect and you I suppose you value the memories of family, and what we went through, actually. So yeah. Interesting.
And you came down to Toowoomba to study. What did you study?
Yes. I was on crayfish boats right up the tip of Cape York for about a year, and my auntie actually became the main lecturer, or she ran Kambari Napalug down at South East Queensland, USQ. So she put a call out to all the kids and said, if you want to go to uni, come now, because we can start that journey. So I come off the cray boats and came straight down in end of 98, and then a lot of our family did come down, and we all started uni together. So it was just an opportunity her thing was, let's educate our young people. So she gave us all that opportunity to go to uni, which was brilliant.
And what was her history like? How did she have the authority, I guess, to be able to put a call out and say, come to uni? Was that some sort of program to, again, encourage
Yeah, it was,
people?
yeah, and a lot of us did the IHEP program,
What does that
which
mean?
was like the bridging course. So you do 6 months to come up to speed for the curriculum, and then you can go straight into a bachelor. So, and a lot of us did that just to get up to speed. I was 24 at the time, so I did that for 6 months. So I came on as an adult student because I had life experience and blah blah blah, and then straight into uni. So ended up doing. I started with history, Asian studies, and Indigenous studies, and went to teaching for 2 years, a year and a half, and went, I don't like this, so I went back to history, but picked up anthropology as well, and loved anthropology, and did Chinese for 2 years as well. But yeah, so it was a myriad. I'm a bit of a life student, but I mean, that all adds to who I am, all that knowledge, and that's why we work with young people to go, you've got to put yourself out there, and knowledge is power, and really encourage them to really connect with people and take opportunities. That's what it's about.
When you came down here, where were you living? Like coming to cold Toowoomba,
Yes.
Coming from North Queensland?
Yes.
That's a real thing.
It is. Yeah, and it was August, and the westerlies were rolling in, and I got off the plane in Toowoomba, and everyone goes, why did you fly to Toowoomba, to the old airport? And I'm like, because they told me to. But I ended up in a place called Gerda Court in Darling Heights. It was a 2-bedroom house, and I was living there with my cousin and my uncle, who was a lecturer and at uni, Indigenous Studies. But you could actually see the dirt between the floorboards. We had no heater, so I used to sit there with the oven open, watching footy.
Not a gas oven, okay?
No. But that was my first thing. And my little sister came down. She lasted 6 months and went, blow this, I'm going back to the warmth. But it was interesting, Toowoomba. I'd been down before for state touch football. We ended up playing in our tracksuit pants and beanies, being from Cairns, so I'd been here once before.
And what was the reception like when you got here? Was it because you were a student, I guess, people were much more sort of accepting of difference and things? Did you find that you faced much discrimination when you came?
Yeah, definitely, I did. And interesting story, and I'm great mates with her now, but I walked into, of all classes, I was late, about a week into communication scholarship. So I walked into the class, and the teacher turned and went, okay, students, we've got a new student. She goes, hello, how are you? Where are you from? And I said, I'm from Cairns, mate. How are you? And she turns back to the class and goes, we were just talking about assumptions, and I just made one. And I went, awesome, I like you. And so we became really good friends. I did cross-cultural training with her and all that kind of stuff. And but Toowoomba itself, it was challenging. It was challenging, and I went out with my cousin who lived here, and he left me out in town one night, and I got into a lot of trouble just for, I believe, being black. And that I expected it. I had heard stories, and a lot of family had told me about Toowoomba and how there was that kind of culture running through, I suppose. But you get it in every community, But being here by myself without much support system, it was hard for the first year. until, you know, a certain lady walked into my life, and then I was fine after that. So,
So going to university, you had all these relatives who were you first in your family to go to university?
No, my older sister actually graduated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that made a big difference to the fact that you could do it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and she did stenography, so that was just, I couldn't even understand that, but she was like, if I can do it, you can do it. So, and that was good, and that got me over the line to come down, I suppose. Yeah.
Right. So you've alluded to meeting a certain lady in your life. Just to finish off, so when you finished uni, what did you do then?
Well, I actually haven't finished uni. I've got 6 months to go. I saw my anthro lecturer, and she's like, mate, there's some funding here for masters, and what you're doing in the community, you could do an anthropology masters, come back and finish your last. Because I was doing it full time for a while, but then the builds and everything started coming on, so I went back into the youth sector, and that's when we started Young Brothers, and then went to Adapt. So haven't had a chance to really get back there, but it was a interesting meeting last year, and I think I'm going to go back this year and finish it. And look, a lot of the jobs I've had in the you know, state jobs and government jobs require degrees, but because of my relevant experience, I've been able to grab those jobs as well. So, but I'm getting to the pointy end. I'm not getting any younger, so I better get a degree.
And it's a long explanation, I guess, to say, well, I could have finished, I should have finished.
Yeah,
but,
did you like that, Dave?
It was good. All right, now on to
that
that certain lady in your life that you met, Susie. Now, you're part of a big family, the Trace sisters, aren't you? You're one of 5 sisters, is it?
One of 6 kids, so 4 girls, 2 boys.
And are you a Toowoomba family?
Born in Western Australia and came over here when I was about 6. So yeah, I was born right on the side of the Great Sandy Desert in Meekatharra. I had a place called Meekatharra, which they call the end of the earth.
And what were your parents doing there?
Oh gosh, I only know.
Were they sort of itinerant type workers, or a big family to be?
We owned a pub in Meekatharra, so I used to say, no, I won't say that story. Yeah, so we owned a pub in West Meekatharra. Yeah.
Right. And is there a big age difference between the oldest and the youngest Trace siblings?
Yes, there is. I think it is 16 years.
And
difference.
where do you fit into the...
I'm number 5.
Okay.
Of number 6, so I'm the second youngest.
And what brought your parents to Toowoomba then?
I think it was because my grandparents were here, and my mum hadn't seen her parents for quite a few years, so I think it was the place to go with 5 or 6 young children in hand. And I think it was,
And you went to uni, and that's where you met Adam. What were you studying?
No,
you weren't at uni?
I met him at uni, though, and it's our favourite story. People say, how do you and Adam meet? And I say, we met each other at USQ, and they say, what did you study? And I say, no, it was at the uni club. And that's because...
Over the pool table.
Yeah. My sister and I, we owned a little clothes shop called Leilu, which was a bit of a retro counterculture lifewear. That's what it was called, Leilu Counterculture Lifewear. So we'd fly to Melbourne, get some really cool club kind of clothing and anything that was retro, bring it up here. And we had our little shop in Margaret Street, and at that time Trevor Watts was actually managing the uni club.
Yes.
And he wanted to have a fashion parade, a retro fashion parade. So he came and saw us and said, do you want to do this? And we were like, yeah. And that's how I got introduced to the uni club and Adam.
Yeah, I suppose. So what years are we talking? Early 2000s?
98, 99.
So, I mean, there was much more of a campus life then, and bands were coming to uni, and they had a uni club and all of that, yeah. So what did you think when you met Adam? Like, was there a spark straight away, or had you been in sort of any long-term relationships before that, or...?
Yeah, well, I actually had a 3-year-old daughter at that time, so I didn't actually go out much. But because we were doing fashion shows, no. But we were going to the uni club, and I met Adam through a mutual friend, and I wouldn't say it was love at first sight. Like, I saw this guy and was like, he was definitely fun and liked to dance, but he certainly wasn't relationship material. Adam was a party boy.
Why did you thought he was too much of a party boy, did you?
Yeah. And I certainly wasn't looking for a relationship. So,
Neither was I.
And when you started going out, Adam, how did you handle the package of Susie and Ori?
Easy. From where I'm from, mate, kids are kids. You accept them. They're part of everything. So, you know, if you take mum, you take the kids, and we've seen it in our family as well, you know, and so it was nothing new. You know, if anything, she was just gorgeous. So it was awesome.
And we were just good mates for
6
about
months.
6 months,
Yeah.
and then every time we saw each other, it was just like, wow. Because the Adam I met and the Adam I got to actually know, rather than just the person standing at the uni, to the person who I grew to know, was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, because I'd get out with my uni mates into town, and about 11 o'clock, I'm like, oh, I'm over it. And so I rang Sue and said, can I come over? And we'd just sit there and
drink
talk
cups
till
of tea.
3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd go, see you later, and go. You know, so, and it was nice. It was a nice courting, if you want to call it. But yeah, I mean, that's when you know that it's right, I suppose, you know.
And do you think that even in those really early days that you could see a shared value in terms of wanting to really essentially help people, whether it was going to be youth or...
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we both come from very caring, community-minded families.
Yes.
And that's what... I mean, we've been married 25 years, and we both have those really strong values. And I always say to people, you know, it's hard because we are passionate, our hearts are in that, because it's all I've ever known.
But it's not even work. It's what we're put here to do, you know. And I mean, you know, Susie's family, what they do in the community. You know, my mum and dad, they run men's and women's groups for the older people in Cairns, you know, around Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, and just connection. So, I mean, we're always destined to be in this. You know, it's just the way we're brought up, I suppose.
I think too, like,
Big families.
When we were kids, we were like living in Harlexton, and Mum would have a massive vegetable garden. She'd tell everyone in the whole neighbourhood, you can come to the vegetable garden anytime you want. You get anything you need. Don't ever jump the fence though and steal it. Just come through the front door. And yeah, we were just, and I know Adam is the same, but brought up just to, we just looked out for each other, and you always knew if someone was having a bad day, maybe it wasn't because they're just an angry person, but maybe there's more to that story. And that's what I know. I always say it's, you know, my mum and dad, but my mum particularly, I can't remember a time where, you know, we'd discuss things. If we saw a family that was struggling, we'd help, and if there was anger or something else, we'd look a bit deeper than just the face value and go, well, maybe that's why. And I think that's what we take into our work now is people ask, how do we work with, you know, some of the young people we do that are doing quite violent crimes, and because we can actually sit with them and just get a little bit deeper than what we're seeing on face value. And when you can do that and you can change their lives on a deeper level, we can change violence and crime. And
I'll just remind the listeners that they're on 102.7 FM. You're with me, Megan O'Hara-Sullivan, and we're talking to Adam and Susy Wenitong from Adapt Mentorship and the community work that they do. So you guys, you went on to get married. You had another 2 children, Benji and Bindi.
Yes.
Benji and Bindi.
Yeah.
And you started these social enterprise. Now, Susie, you started Second Shot, which is a cafe downtown. Tell the listeners about that.
So Tiffany and Nat were doing amazing stuff at the base, and some amazing funding came out called Dignity First. I think it was called Dignity Funding. And it was probably the first time the government really opened opportunities for people to come up with their own idea of helping people who were experiencing homelessness. And because Tiff and Nat were doing such an amazing job at the base soup kitchen, I kind of went to them and said, I think you guys should look into this. And I just finished doing some youth stuff for quite a few years. So I said, let's get our heads together and design a program. And so it's very much co-designed with Tiff and Nat as well. And we came up with Second Shot.
And explain what Second Shot is.
So Second Shot's a social enterprise that was to bring people out of homelessness and get them employment, and so that their whole lives could change from that. So it started with, I think it was 7 men from the base soup kitchen. We pretty much I went into the base soup kitchen and said, who wants an opportunity to become a barista? And yet we had lots of hands go up.
What was the oldest guy?
The oldest guy would have been 75 maybe. And that's how Second Shot started. It's very different now. The structure's very different. But we'd go straight into the soup kitchen, get people to come, and then we would go out. I got contracts with some of the biggest companies around Toowoomba, and because we didn't want to just rely on selling coffee in a coffee van somewhere, so it was about setting up contracts with, I think it was the Rowie.
The new
The second range, not this.
Yeah,
the
range
second
crossing,
range crossing.
yeah.
Sorry.
What was that, Nexus?
Yeah, got
place,
in touch with Nexus and said, "Can we come and sit there every single week? And if someone wants a coffee," and so because we had somewhere and we knew there was going to be customers, we got to teach these men how to become baristas. And
So what did you have? Did you have a van, or
Yeah.
did you set that van up? Where
Yes.
did you get the van from? Where did you get the money from? All of that.
So the money was from state government, as I said, dignity funding. I probably was more in the writing of it and the coordination of it once it was, it started. But TIFF, and that was in the design of the truck, and we got that from Melbourne. So yeah, it took us about 8 months to get it up and running and some students on board.
What was the retention rate like of people who came on, like the 75-year-old and the
Yep.
other ones? Was there like a certain course that they had to finish, or?
At that stage, there wasn't actually a course. It was that we're going to teach you to become baristas, and then we'll get you into paid. We'll pay you to do this position. The only problem with that, and why the course ended up changing, was a lot of people who are experiencing homelessness and in going to soup kitchens don't even have birth certificates, tax file numbers, bank accounts, etc. So that was the first hurdle we came up against was, oh gosh, we want to pay you because you're working, but we actually couldn't because some people just don't trust the government. They just didn't have documents we needed to even get a bank account or a tax file number. And that's when it changed to more of a Skill in Queensland thing where, we took on people who had a bit more identification. Yeah, because the cohort we had on the first round they weren't willing to, they didn't want to be paid.
They were still rough sleeping.
They were rough sleepers. So I would meet them in the morning before we went out in the coffee truck. There would be a shower, and we would have washed their clothes from last week, and they would have a shower, get their clean clothes on, and then go out, do service, come back. They'd change back out of their clothes, and the 78-year-old guy who I'll always hold dear to my heart. He was the most amazing man with the most amazing history. And he just knew everything about everything. And I used to always wonder actually what he did in his life. Yeah. And once I was asking him to read something, and he put it almost up to his forehead to read this form. And I said, oh, geez, do you want me to take you? So I took him to Specsavers, and they gave him a optical, Megan, you'd know what I'm talking about, eye test. And a couple of weeks later, I was actually there, and we went and picked up the glasses, and he put the glasses on, and I have never seen such a dramatic change in someone. And he said, I didn't even know these colours existed. So to me, when I was doing Second Shot, it was those moments more than the employment and teaching them anything. It was the moments where this man said, I have not seen like this for years. And he ended up writing a book, actually, which you will have to talk to Tiffany about because we have a copy of it, and it's the most amazing thing, because I think if we hadn't got him into the course to figure out that he couldn't read, to get the glasses, and now he's got a full-time job. He's up in far north Queensland, and he sends a Christmas card every year.
Incredible. I'm sure there are
there's
100 stories like that in terms of the literally the lives that you've saved and the things that you've done. So your most recent work, Susy, has been with Protea Place, and we have interviewed Amanda Dalton on Big Little Small Talk. What were you doing at Protea Place?
Okay, so Amanda and I have been friends for many years, actually, and we both worked in the community sector, and she just kept seeing women and the opportunities that didn't exist, and the way, the hidden homelessness of women. So that was pretty much my next step from Second Shot, because I was actually looking for a way out, because I think no one should ever just stay in a program and be a coordinator and lead it. I think we should let the people below us then come up. So that was where I finished Second Shot, and I said to Amanda, absolutely, let's do this. We're both really passionate. We had a ball just creating, getting the house ready and opening that up, and I was the coordinator there for almost 4 years.
Incredible. Now, Adam, back to you. You're actually wearing your Young Brothers T-shirts. So what was Young Brothers? You started that in 2014?
Yeah, 2014, 2015. And look, we've been in the community sector since about 2000. I think my first job was a traineeship at Youth Justice as a youth worker, then worked down the base with Suze after that. But
In Brisbane.
yeah, in Brizzy. But I think, coming out of resis and stuff and getting into youth work again and just noticing all these gaps in the system for young Indigenous men in the youth justice system with no real positive male role models. So Young Brothers was born out of frustration, I believe, but also the need for myself. I was on my own journey as well. But just to really remind these young men that there were good men in the community, and just remind them what our role was from a cultural point of view, as men in our families, as protectors and providers. But also not to take, and not to take any crap and really speak up for themselves, have a voice, So that started in 2014, 2015, and I was doing individual young men at the time, and it was just weekly. So it was good. It was really good, yeah. And I think there was a natural progression from
So
where we
when
come
you
from.
say it was with individuals, was that you mentoring young
right.
people one-on-one?
That's
is that
right, yeah. And taking them out of the office and taking them to Miwa, taking them up to the Bunyas and really trying to connect in with them. And it wasn't so much about culture back then. It was more about that being in nature and having that space to actually breathe and to stop and to breathe and to have some good conversations,
So you start up Young Brothers. Was that... do you get government funding for that? How do you do it? And how do you sort of navigate the legal and all of those hurdles and financial hurdles?
Yes, and I think in the end a service came to me and went, hey, we need this, this and this, can you do it? So it was about really getting the business up and running. They contracted me as a service to facilitate my program.
So would that be like Youth Justice or Catholic
Care?
Care
Yeah,
or
that's
something
right.
like
Just
that,
like a
is that-
service provider, yeah. And who's got brokerage, and so we utilise that brokerage for individualised mentoring and specialised mentoring, cultural mentoring.
Right.
So
I was just going to add, at that time it was we were getting phone calls constantly from organisations, parents going, oh my gosh, what do we do with this young person? And that's why Young Brothers really came to life first off, but just because the amount of phone calls we were getting, or even organisations going, what do I do with this young person? And we'd say, well, we think this route would be this pathway. And then quite a big organisation got in touch and said, we can fund this under us. So that's...
But at the same time, Suze was the Yakayari worker within the community, which is the youth at, what is it?
It was Youth at Risk Initiative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she was with the service and they ran a community games each week, so we were having contact with all these young people as well, and we noticed all these lads not engaging or falling through the system with no supports around them, and I think that's what started as well, because we were engaging them. And I think it's a kind of format that hasn't changed for us either. Connection and storytelling is what we do. Every human needs to have a story. They need vehicles to tell their story, but at the same time they need connection to a safe space as well. So that pretty much created our framework to what we do now.
So, okay, let's go and talk about Adapt Mentorship, since that's what you're here for. I was reading about doing some research for this interview and about mentorship and does it really work? And I read about this 3 A's, availability, analytical, and being an active listener. So why is your model, I know that you say that your youth mentoring, crime prevention program design and delivery and community consultancy, is mentoring the sort of the biggest part of it? And is it just you two, or do you have other people working with you? And how, this is 100 questions all in the one.
We'll give you 100 answers back.
Okay.
I suppose, look, mentoring, our main focus is young people. That's it. So mentoring is a big part of what we do. But since we've grown and we're doing what we do in the community, collaboration with other services is just as important as well. But we will never take our eyes off our focus, and that we are here for our young people in our community. What was another question? Oh, yeah, by ourselves. So, yeah. And as I said, and Suze can speak to this too, but we've been in the community for over 20 years, working in a lot of different organisations, making a lot of different contacts and relationships. So now a lot of those people we started with are now in management jobs and around the community still, and working for different services. So we can call on those guys because we've worked and collaborated over the years. So we have what we call a tribe of mentors. So we have people in the community and services that we can actually go to, and we've worked together before, so we know the trust and they know what they're going to get. And what we try to do is, whatever we do, the collaborating partner, they have a role, and it's their service delivery. They don't have to change anything. So everyone just plays a role, and we just try and keep it simple. But it's successful, and because people will come if someone facilitates the program. Someone will come if you try to collaborate and bring a big partnership together. If someone's facilitating it, you will be surprised how many people will come.
Okay. Let me just see that I've got my head around it, because even though I know you
I know,
guys
I'm
and know
talking
that I know the work that you do, I don't really understand what's involved in a day. Like, I know you've had a really busy day today, but how are people referred to you, and what do you do with them?
Yes.
Okay. I want to. Can I just say something? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think what happened was when you asked me about Protea Place before, so that was just so amazing. And again, because I'd come from youth and family support, and then I went into women and homelessness DV support, and Adam and I have always done this as a little side hustle, young brothers. And then I thought, actually, I do create a lot with a lot of people to, you know, try and create really impactful projects. And Adam and I always did Young Brothers as a side hustle. So I was like, I'm going to take all this energy I've got and it's going to be about Adam and I for once, rather than other organisations who I dearly love. But so that's how that happened. And I literally got in the car and said to Adam, I've just
Christmas
resigned.
Eve,
And he nearly drove off the side of the road because he went, oh my God.
We had a plan.
Yeah. So within I'd say about 6 weeks of finishing up my last job, the youth violence and crime stuff happened, and our phone started ringing immediately. Not only because, well, we do know a lot of people in the
but we were running the
community.
programs already when it did kick off, I think.
Yeah, but I think also that a lot of people knew we did youth, and I love crime prevention. It's probably one of my favourite parts of all my different jobs throughout the sector, other than I love social enterprise, but crime prevention, which I did for many years before that.
It's funny though, you say, everyone says crime prevention. I don't see it as crime prevention. I see it as empowerment, you know, and helping young people on their journey. Everyone's lost, you know, so crime prevention, for funding and talking in the community, but realistically it is about the individual young person and their families, and it is about, you know, giving them avenues and giving them enough I suppose support to find self-determination. That's what it's about.
So you talk about the crime prevention. Do you feel like there was a sort of almost like a point in time where it's just went nuts? The youth.
Oh, look.
People, people in Toowoomba are very exercised
Yes.
about, and the things that I know is that it's a small group of repeat offenders.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, correct.
So do you think that there really was a time, and what do you attribute that to?
I'll just tell my side. I think in about 2015-16 is when I actually left the youth sector to do Second Shot. The biggest reason I left is that the government decided that crime prevention programs and programs for youth, full stop, that had more than one person, like big programs like I was running, that didn't work. And what they wanted is everyone to become case managers. That meant one-on-one with young people. At the time that the Newman government, I think it was, did that, I was I was a bit worried because I was seeing like maybe 134 young people a week, and that's in programs. So one program might be 60 kids and one might be 20. But what worried me is that I knew which ones weren't someone that were going to sit in an office with me by myself and talk to me about maybe what's happening. But I knew that through painting or art or creative or sport, that as a group I could see who the leaders were, and because they're outside, they'd actually open up a lot more. So half the reason I left the youth sector in about 2016 was because, the government just went, look, we just don't believe programs work. And I really went, oh, that's a bit of a concern, because not everyone's a one-on-one type person. Sure. And like any young person you might know who might be aged between 13 and 17, if you said, hey, you've got to go to this office and you're going to go, sit with this person and speak about your life, chances are they're probably not going to open up for a little while, which we all know that. But what we do now, which is group programs, group activities, using vehicles like street art or many things, you tend to find out their story very quickly because they are doing something they absolutely love. They kind of look at us oldies and probably go, what are you doing this for? But they open up very quickly and they invest very quickly too.
So tell me about some of the things you do. I know you do street footy.
Yeah.
Tell me about the the song lines, tracing the song lines.
Yes, yeah, and it is, like I said, storytelling and connection. You know, that's what we do. So following the song lines, you know, I've got a really strong partnership with the traditional owners in the Bunya Mountain Ranges. So, you know, we've been talking about this. We've been friends and been in the same space for over a decade, and we've been talking about young people and especially the youth justice and how do we engage them back onto country. You know, not just for themselves, but for the community as well.
What do you do with them? You get these.
Yeah, look,
how do you get them?
Yeah, look.
Where do they come
In
from?
the end, I think it comes back from I'm on my own journey about my culture as well. And so after doing a few weeks out, I thought, well, I'm getting so much out of this. I need to bring these young men and young women out here as well. So, and the beautiful thing about Gumanjuru and the traditional owners that they've said, look, this is about reconciliation. It's about everyone. If we're going to move forward, you know, we need to share our culture and we need to get people to actually, you know, understand who we are and share it with them. So that started it. And so, you know, it's just bringing young people out from the youth justice system, child safety system, disengagement. And when we get out there, it's about those safe spaces, you know, and really appreciating just being out. And when we get out there, I say, you know, we've been in town all week. This is a chance just to let it all go, you know, breathe, quiet your mind. And we do a smoking each week around cleansing, you know, and we respect everyone's culture and we respect if they don't want to do it. But we say, you know, let's just cleanse all the problems that have been throughout the week and do a cleansing. And then we'll sit there for an hour and talk about, okay, this is what happened. What's a better response? How could we have done that differently? And as a group, we all have a chat. So the meaningful conversations that happen out there is just beautiful. But from Gumanjuru, you know, we really do that cultural awareness around the song lines as well. And the song lines are those knowledge paths throughout every region in Australia. And we give them that awareness, but it's a chance to take them out of town as well, to the Bunyas main range, and take them to significant sites and really try and get them to understand that, you know, our people used to walk all these ways, and you know, they were resilient, they adapted to the environment, all that kind of stuff. So we talk about that with the young people, and we see how we can actually translate that into their own lives and back into the community, you know. And we use the songlines as a framework of good values and you know, cultural protocols, and it doesn't matter if you're black or white, you know, young people get it, you know, and it is about just being a better person and a better version of yourself. And yeah, it's
that was a question I was going to ask you. Is this program only available to black or white kids?
No, it's open to everyone.
Okay.
Open to
and
everyone.
are mostly the children or the kids, are they they've been referred from the youth justice because they've had already some contact?
Oh, yeah.
They're referred from a lot of places. Youth Justice, QPS, Youth Justice Co-Responder Team, most youth organisations, schools. To a point, actually, we don't. It's not something we advertise because there is honestly so many referrals. So it's we're not trying to be out there going, "Hey, who wants to use this service?" Because we actually,
if anything, and that's why street's so important on a Thursday. So any young person that comes to street, that's where we start that relationship. And I say,
what is street?
So street is the street footy. So it's the street footy we play, but there's more than sport happening. It's a safe space. It's outreach.
Where is street footy?
Oh, no, we can tell you that.
Yeah. So we do a youth outreach. That's where anyone is welcome. So we will have, sometimes mum might turn up with her young person and go, or, you know, or we'll have young people who might be suspended from school, young people who are disengaged from everything, but they know that when they come to the park, they're going to get a really, really good lunch. They're going to have about up to 8 or 9 services present. So when they come, we'll say, "Hey, let's play some footy." Footy is really nothing about the program. That's just a thing.
Carrot.
The carrot. But during that time, I mean, we had a young man come that he usually plays footy, and I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "Oh, I'm peeing blood." And I said, "That's a bit concerning," and he wasn't too concerned. So we got to speak to our one of our Indigenous health nurses who took him straight into the things like that. So we have.
So if I'm a parent out there and my boys, as you know, gave me a pretty hard time, I'm worried about them. I'm worried that they're going to start disengaging. They've been suspended a couple of times.
Yes.
How do I make contact with you guys?
Yeah.
You know what? I'd think as a parent, maybe you'd bring a organisation into Toowoomba, maybe, and they might point you in our direction, because we do work with all the youth organisations.
Yeah.
So the people have to be referred there, like they can't just get in touch with you.
Yeah,
they can just
absolutely
rock up on a Thursday.
Word of mouth is probably the biggest way people get in touch with us, because like when we started the first week, we would have had 4 young people. We probably sit around 20 to 30 a week at the moment. And about 30% of them are newcomers every single week. So what you get is, I'm sure you'd have mum friends that you might go, gosh, I'm really struggling with my son. We find that all of a sudden all the mums are kind of chatting to each other. And if it's not them, it might be carers, it might be organisations. Adam also goes to children's court in the morning, so he'll meet the whole family.
Every Thursday morning, go to children's court, talk to the young people, talk to their family, their supports, and go, hey, this is what's happening. You know, and from there, if they need any more individualised mentoring, then I say, come 2 or 3 weeks in a row. This is my expectations. You know, if you're an older boy, you're going to lead. So all these younger people, I don't want to see you lead them astray. I want you to stand up and, you know, and be that leader. And if you can do that, then you can come out on country with us as well, because we're building leaders. You know, this isn't a free for all. You need to prove, not just to me, but to yourself, that you're on this journey and you want to be part of this. So, and we've got a really strong group of young men at the moment, and they are they've been through the system, and all these younger people know it. And last week was interesting because I was trying to talk to a young bloke who was running amok, and one of the older guys stood there and went, "You can't do that here, mate. This is a safe space." And this young kid said, "I've never seen you speak like that before." And he said, "Because we are here to create men. We are here to be the best versions of ourselves." I nearly fell off the chair. But that is what we are creating. And it doesn't surprise me anymore, because these young men, they need, they just want to be, I don't know, nurtured, I suppose. They want this positive contact. They want to know how to be a man. I don't know how to be a man, but I know how to be a good version of myself. So it's those kind of conversations, and they get it, man. They're not silly.
And look, I think the other thing is they come and they say, "I won't ever be anything. I've got no one."
Yeah.
And what we do is spark a bit of belief system. So we've, how many? Probably got in the last 6 months, maybe 8 people into jobs, 3 into TAFE. And that's massive for the cohort we're talking about.
Yeah.
And when they do that, they're standing a bit taller. And every time you just fill them with a bit of, hey, we believe in you.
Yeah, man.
Like if there's something that they will say, it's like, oh, yeah, you're the first person that ever said I might be that, or I could be that.
Is that something that you hear quite a lot?
A lot.
And is that how you measure success in your industry?
I measure success by them coming back each week, and they trust us.
Well, I measure success because we know young people from 8 years ago who've now got amazing jobs and amazing families who will still contact us at certain times of the year and just to say, hey, how you going? Or we'll go to their ceremonies or
because we work with generations of families, in our time in Toowoomba. So but today, football was great today, because we've got our biggest problem at the moment is suspended kids from suspension programs. That is our biggest problem. Like, these suspension programs are dropping these kids. They've got no supports, but because they've been to our space, they keep coming back, which is awesome because there's no other supports. And so when they come back, at least we can grab them and go, right, there's U-turn, there's these other guys, start supporting them, But we had a big fella today, and look, big guy, never played footy, but we've had him playing footy for 4 weeks now. And today he made a break, he nearly scored a try, and every time we were like, great run, everyone's clapping, and the look on his face, and he's like, I just said to Susy, he probably hasn't had a group of people actually shouting his name and egging him on. And I said, that's success. That is the look on his face after the game was just priceless, and that's why we do it. So
I'm gonna run out of time.
Yes.
I know.
But we talked about Ori, Benji, and Bindi earlier. So Benji, that's a combination of both.
Hardest thing as a mother.
I actually wanted Bindi and Bundy, but common sense prevailed.
So Benji is in Year 12, and what's he sort of? I know he's part of Council's Youth Connect program, but what else has he done this year that sort of makes us all proud?
Yeah. After you, Mum.
Well, he's school captain and the first Indigenous school captain, which is super exciting. Look, we didn't even know he was he was going for school captain, but yeah, he just amazes me.
Yeah.
All of our children amaze me. They all have their
quirks.
Yeah, I don't think any children of yours. I mean, I think we all worry about our children.
Yes.
But I did want to talk about the suicide prevention stuff that you do and all of that, which is so important. But we'll just go off on with our fun little questions at the end, and I won't even get to ask you. You know, what's the worst piece of advice you've been given, or the worst one that you have been given?
Marry her. No, I'm just joking.
That was the best piece of advice, I think.
Oh, was it? Okay.
What's the or your favourite celebrity scandal? As much as I do
didn't
love that
know
sort of
that.
thing. Yeah.
See, that one I just went.
I said Nipplegate.
I wouldn't even know. Wouldn't even know.
That's Janet Jackson.
Yes,
isn't
it is.
Yes,
That's correct.
Okay, very good. All right. What about if you could do anything illegal? Well, it's probably not a very good question to
love
ask
this
you this.
one.
If you could do anything illegal and not get caught, what would it be?
I would be a Banksy of Toowoomba, of Australia. I would love to put... I mean, I'm not even an artist, but I love Banksy, and I love what he does, and I love the messages he gives, and he does it in such a beautiful way. So I'd be Banksy, the street artist.
Awesome.
So you did mention just quickly before you talked about street art. Are you running a street art program with the kids?
No.
Look, a lot of our street art programs come from those other programs as a vehicle for self-expression, and so we will be doing it again. But the street art programs that we do usually come from other programs about asking the kids, what do you want to do? What's interesting? And it always ends up either hip hop, street art, or podcasting, or or hiking, going out and doing stuff. So
the first street art programs we ever did, it's anti-graffiti programs. Like that is what it was about. Is the first ever mural in Toowoomba that I got in quite a bit of trouble for, because people thought I was teaching young people how to spray paint walls, but what I was actually doing was young people were walking home to different neighbourhoods, and they'd write certain words on every single telegraph pole on the way home, and not realise that was every telegraph pole was an offence.
Separate charge.
Now, the young men involved, no one could get them, no one could work with them. They were just too hard. So I said, I like it. I like a good, challenge. So I said, okay. So I went and saw the boys and said, come and do a street art program. I said, we're going to learn about two artists. So we actually learnt about Banksy, and we actually learnt about Mad Adnate.
But at the same time, Sue's brought in young brothers as well, just for that extra support and that cultural stuff as well. So I get to meet the young lads as well.
So I got to talk to them about, crime, the crime and the cost of crime and the cost on the government and the councils. And
Paul did it.
And also what paint, does to our brains and does to our health. And it's probably the worst thing anyone could ever do is sniff paint and chrome. It's probably because we've worked in other communities where we've seen it really
in your face.
I suppose it's on my mind at the moment. Our eldest son, who does love to graffiti, but he now has gone and done an art course and is now really in Brisbane. I think it's somewhere on the south side, somewhere around Dutton Park. They've got a wall where the council allows them, and I think that's a perfect example of how community can
absolutely
work
and
with.
That's exactly what came from that project is
a legal wall.
A legal wall in Toowoomba.
And we run programs and
where's the legal wall in Toowoomba?
Well, it was at Contraband, which was in Lawrence Street, but there is a legal wall at the Chalky Skate Park, and there's a few others around Toowoomba. That's
interesting. We've got so much to cover. We might have to get you back. I always
too
I always
easy.
say that.
We rabbit on.
Okay, each of us got an individual answer. Who's your favourite royal and why?
Queen Elizabeth, Lizzie. She's awesome. She's if I could have coffee with anyone, I'd have coffee with her. Only because I said her story from being Queen and going through World War II, but what she did for the Commonwealth, I think. Her reign was about going to each Commonwealth country and giving independence and helping build up every Commonwealth country. I mean, as a Queen, I don't care where you're from. If you can do that and build up, I think she was awesome. I really do. I think she was very inspiring. So that's mine. Yeah, I know,
Susie?
especially come from me. Yeah.
He didn't become a king because he abdicated because Edward VIII, because he he loved someone so much that he gave it up, and I love him for that. I just think he's amazing to give up the throne for love, and for everyone being against this marriage. And
was that the Wallace Simpson one? Was it? Which led to my favourite.
Yeah,
so
that's
yes. Okay. Well, they're intimately connected in a way. So, what about, you talked before about how you met and you love to dance and party and have fun. So, individually, I'll start with you, Susie. What's the song that can't keep you off the dance floor?
Jeez, it's got to be No Scrubs by TLC.
Okay, showing my age. Don't know that one. What about you, Adam?
Well, if that's on, I'm standing right behind it, gyrating, so it's all good.
Well, on the note of gyrating, listeners, we'll say goodbye for now. So thank you too. It's been a wonderful story, and truly, from the bottom of my heart, as a community member, all I can say is thank you for the work that you do.
Ditto.
But thank you. And it is about storytelling, so thanks. You know, everyone's got a story, and I think the community want to hear everyone's story, and you know, it builds better communities, man. Understanding.
Amen to that. That's it for this week. Thanks for joining me on Big Little Small Talk. I hope you can make the time to join me next week. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favourite podcast app.